So it looks like we're live, Jim. We're getting ready to start broadcast 107. I'm truly excited to be here today. And we have a special guest with us again on this broadcast. I'm really excited. I'm privileged and I'm honored to be here today. Once again, Sunday Night Alive Power Hour. I'll be your host, Santos Rolon Jr., straight out of Stockton, California. We have Jim in the house with us today. And we are going to get into some, I don't know, call it psychology, some mental programming here. We're going to discuss mental programming, mindset, or let me see, what is it, the word that I really want to call it? A change or a mind shift. So we're going to get into this in this session on this broadcast, and we're excited. And those of you that are here with us today, remember to challenge us, ask questions, because that's how we learn. That's how we grow, right? We don't want to come to this broadcast and just sit here and stare at the screen. You want to come to this broadcast and walk away with something, my friend. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time, because your time is very valuable. So I want to welcome everybody from around the world. And we're going to do one proverb today before we get into the talk about psycho-cybernetics, the power of changing changing the way you think and changing your behavior. So today's proverb, by the way, I want to send out a shout out to those of you that have been supporting this mission. I truly appreciate your support. Keep it coming. We're going to continue to support you. All right. Today's proverb is a great proverb. It comes out of the book of James, chapter 1, verse 17. It says, "Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning." So you and I have a gift. We have gifts. We have abilities. We have talents. We can sit with those things and do nothing, or we can begin to multiply. We can begin to increase. Or like I like to say, we can actually go into the garden and begin to plant good seed so that we can get a good harvest. So we're done with the proverb. Once again, I welcome each and every one of you guys. Sean, welcome to the program. Roberta, Jim's with us. Nahil, thank you, Nahil, for your support. Thank you. And thank you, Sean. By the way, Sean's going to be with us next Sunday. We're going to be talking about his testimony and what's got him so fired up that he's basically winning and overcoming and breaking through the gambling issues in his life. So, Jim, I'm going to give you the floor here. First of all, tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing right now, Jim. What are you currently doing
right now? Currently,
right now you're on the screen. No, I'm talking about currently lifestyle.
Yeah, currently, I guess just getting into a new year. I sell bikes online and locally, and bike parts, etc. It's kind of slow right now. It's normal because it's winter time, so it gives me an opportunity to focus on maybe more advertisements, strategizing, organizing. I think it's pretty exciting to start a new year. One thing I need to keep doing is keep writing and kind of planning things out. That should never stop, even if the new year is done, because there's a lot of things to get done. We're going to be talking about, I guess, psychology and subconscious. I think it's start off with a conscious way of going about things. Really kind of think about what you want. And that kind of ties into, I think, everyone here. If everyone here is trying to, improve, get away from gambling, any kind of like addictive, compulsive behavior, you got to kind of decide, really. I remember listening to Cephas talk about, it starts with a decision. And I think a decision starts when you said enough is enough. I'm tired of living my life this way. It sucks. I'm tired of losing money. I'm tired of like not making my payments on my bills. I'm tired of like getting sick. I'm tired of whatever it is. I'm just sick of this. And we are going to be talking about what Maxwell Maltz, doctor that got into the idea of psychocybernetics and the right way of thinking, and he talked about having a mindset, a positive mindset of caring about yourself. That's one of the important things. So when you start thinking about I want to start taking care of myself, it just begins there, and then you start kind of imagining things, which is a major thing about the process. So, I mean, it starts with a decision, and I think that's something that we can do every moment. It doesn't have to be at the beginning of the year. You can just decide. Decide that I'm not going to gamble anymore. Decide I'm not going to eat trash anymore. Decide that I'm going to start exercising. Decide that I'm going to start taking care of myself. And then once you get that ball rolling, the mind starts thinking, well, how can I do this? How can I do this? Right? You get like you always say, the pen, the paper, right, are powerful tools that you can use to write down the stuff, this plan, getting it down on paper. I think we talked about it earlier, saying that, that there's a power in writing things down. I know that we do use a lot of technology, but the ability to write things down on paper, just gets that thing into your mind, embeds it, and it gets the process going, in no other way. So yeah, so starting with a decision, getting that decision written down, and start forming a plan and writing it down on paper is major. And that's what I want to do, for the year.
True. In fact, why we're going to be discussing a little bit here. Those of you that, by the way, I see some new Roberta and Rob. Welcome, Wilson. Welcome to the program, episode 107. If you have a question, you have an observation that you want to throw, put it in the comments. We're gonna talk about this. Again, our goal on this Sunday broadcast is to walk away from this with some tools. Right? We want to walk away from this with some tools, with some hope, but not just hope that actually energizes us to do something. There's a different type of hope, right? People hope for things to happen. Then there's the other hope, okay, to make some things happen. We're going to be talking a little bit about Dr. Maxwell Maltz, the author of the book, Psychocybernetics. And I know he's played a large role. Well, maybe I shouldn't say a large role. He's played a particular role in my life because he helped me to understand something about my mindset. There's a terminology, and I'm sure you've heard this before. He says image is everything. I don't believe that image is everything, but I believe that image has a lot to do with the person that you are today and the way that you're living, the choices that you're making, the bad decisions, good decisions, the way that you're talking to yourself, the way that you're talking to other people. It all boils down to that image, that mental image. Now, why is it, Jim? Why is it so difficult for people to really get ahead in life? Why is it so challenging for some, not all, but for some, to get to that next level?
Well, you can think about it as like negative self-belief. Limiting self-belief. That's something that you talked about earlier, and it goes back to when you're young, I believe. When you're a young kid, stuff happens, and that kind of stuff gets embedded in your mind and your psyche. It could have been positive or it could have been negative. And once those things, get embedded in your mind, it starts transforming you, into that particular person who functions that way. I mean, if you were told that you're no good, you're a loser, you'll never amount to anything, those ideas start shaping like who you are, who you think you are. And when you think like that, then you will never, I believe, achieve, overcome, you just stay in that awful rut. I think when those things happen to you, you start getting defensive, and your true self isn't really shown. It's the person who's hiding, the person who's trying to defend himself or herself from all the negative, nasty things that they had encountered earlier, and are what they're going to be expecting, probably in their mind what's going to be happening. So they're always on the defensive, and you'll never be able to grow and become anything better. Always kind of hiding, being defensive. And I think that's something that a lot of people have to fight with. It's tough. Life is hard, and when you have all these negative experiences happen to you, without any kind of instruction or encouragement, tend to kind of fall down.
And by the way, Jim is also an educator in the area of math and science. So he's got some really good experience in teaching. It's true what you just shared, Jim. The mental image that we carry. For instance, this morning, many people, probably 99% of the people would wake up in the morning and just go and do whatever they're going to do and eat, and then they leave or they stay in their house. Most people are not working on themselves. Sadly, most people are not working inside the mind. I call this the garden. Your mind is like a well-watered garden, right? There's weeds that grow in there. You need water. You need sun. You need to be patient because the crop only grows with time. And again, if we don't work on ourselves, if we don't start, we just entered a new year, right? I hope you didn't bring a lot of the baggage, the bad habits that you had last year. I hope you didn't bring those. I don't know who I'm talking to here. I'm talking to somebody. I hope you didn't bring that baggage with you. But if you did, it's still early on in the year. And, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, he talks about, in fact, he was a surgeon. He started out as a surgeon, a surgical plastic surgeon doctor. But as he worked on patients, he would obviously reconfigure their faces or whatever area of their body that they wanted fixed. But he would find that a lot of these individuals had severe problems even after they were fixed from an auto accident or some kind of a scar that they've had for a long time. He would begin to notice that some people that he worked on weren't happy. They weren't getting ahead. They weren't being successful because a lot of stuff was going on in their heads. So that's how he got into psycho-cybernetics. He began to look at that field and began training, and he helped a lot of people, thousands and thousands of people. And that's what we're talking about a little bit. We're trying to dive into this, Jim and I. But just a little bit about him. He was born in New York. Dr. Maxwell Maltz was born. Looks like he was born March 10th, 1899. Here we are in the year 2020, and we're talking about somebody that was born in 1899. I think that's pretty impressive. So he's definitely left a big mark in the world, and he's somebody that we can definitely pay attention to that will help us. So he got into the field of psychology, self-development. And that's what you understand, correct, Jim?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, like with what I read and listened to, Maxwell Maltz, one of the things that he talked about in his book Psycho-Cybernetics was to, forgive yourself. A lot of times we just put ourselves down for things that we're no good at, we failed at, and we just beat ourselves up. And a lot of times we have a problem comparing ourselves with other people.
Yeah,
I'm no good compared to this person, that person. Everyone's smarter than me. Everyone's making more money than me. I'm just a loser. And we just beat ourselves up and beat ourselves down. Go to the casino, you lose lots of money. you just say, I hate myself. I hate myself. And Maxwell Maltz says, you know what? You need to go ahead and stop, and you need to go and forgive yourself. You got to forgive yourself for like all the things, the perceived failures, or whatever you've done. That it kind of starts with there. And, when you forgive yourself, you're starting the process of like starting to care about yourself. And I think it all starts right there. I'm going to make a decision to start caring about myself and forgiving yourself and forgiving other people. It's where it's at. You start with that. And once you can say, you know what, I'm a mistake maker. I think that's what he said. I'm a mistake maker, but thank God I'm a mistake breaker. It's like, yeah, I messed up, but I can turn things around, with a simple decision, a good plan, an action, so, I forgive myself. Number one, right? So yeah, that's very important, I believe.
Yeah. We it's a battle. It is a discipline. We shouldn't kid ourselves that if you truly want to change your circumstances, if you want to change your bank account, that's one of the major things that we all have a challenge with, is the bank account. Except for rich people, they have other problems. The real wealthy, they don't have money problems. They have other problems. Us people that are starting to build businesses, we want to reach other people. We've got one of the biggest challenges is finances, and your finances, sadly, not sadly, but profoundly, your finances is tied to your mental image. Jim was just sharing about some of the things that we grow up with, the advice, the lifestyles of people around us, especially when we're young. We absorb. The subconscious is absorbing all of these things, and we're building our person, the person that we're going to become later on. And I find myself today making less poor choices, but there was a period in my life where I was making a lot of poor choices, especially when it came to gambling and drinking, and females. I had problems with that. Could never really secure a good relationship because the mental image that I had of myself was a very poor image. I had a lack of self-esteem. I didn't have confidence. I didn't even know who I was. All I know was that I was just existing. I knew that I was alive. I knew that there was something about me that was alive, but I really didn't have any conscious awareness of thoughts and the way that I was speaking to myself and all of these other things, because of what was programmed within me. Because we are programmed. We are either maintaining the current program that you have, or you are either working on reprogramming into a better programming. You're not going to get rid of the beliefs. You're not going to get rid of all of these things that are inside your head. They're there permanently, but you can override them. You can overrule them and begin to have that new vision override the old vision. And that's what Max talks about. We self-defeat ourselves, as Jim was saying, with our talk. And it's so important today. It's so important today as we go into this future. What are things going to be like in 5 or 10 years? We have an idea. What are we going to be like if we're still here in 5 or 10 years? We must really work on. So I kind of like this, the psycho-cybernetic that Dr. Maxwell Maltz teaches, because it's a kind of a simple concept. It's not easy, or should I say it's easy but not simple, because it is a work. It's a discipline that you have to kind of work on yourself if you want more, if you want better. It's not going to get better by itself. We can get up every day and hope and have a pipe dream and think about all these things and do nothing about it at all. We're just going to go deeper and deeper into frustration. And sadly, some people take their own lives because they can't figure out what's going on inside their head. So, by the way, I want to say that you're on this episode. It's not a coincidence that you're here listening to my voice. Jim's voice. We're talking about psycho-cybernetics. We're actually just talking about mental reprogramming here to help you get to that next level, give you some good hope. You may find yourself in a very, very difficult situation right now where you may feel like maybe you're in the middle of the jungle, cold, naked, you're feeling hurt or whatever it is, and you may feel like you're there by yourself. Well, we're here to support you, and there's always hope. There's always going to be solutions. There's always going to be opportunities if you put yourself in the right environment, and if you begin working on, obviously your mindset. So learning about people like Maxwell Maltz may be a little bit boring, but some of the philosophy and the programming or the techniques that he talks about in his books and in the audio on YouTube are going to make a fantastic difference in your life when you apply. I'm preaching.
Yeah,
I'm preaching now, Jim. Go ahead. It's your turn, man.
Oh yeah, well, Maxwell Maltz has the kind of like basically a very simple formula, like you talked about. Number one, you need to use your imagination. Imagination is key. Basically, imagination, visualize, right? What would a better life look like for yourself? I mean, for most people here, they're sick of gambling. They're sick of losing their money, right? What would their life look like? How would they feel? How would they look? What would their bank account look like if they stop gambling? Just having that vision, visualizing yourself as a non-gambler, a person who just drives past the casino and say, hey, I don't need you. I don't need you. You can go ahead and imagine you get physically sick and throwing up driving by a casino. Okay, having that. And I believe Maxwell Maltz wants you to focus on whatever you desire. And that kind of starts the process, your subconscious process of looking for tools, whatever out there in the universe there is that will help you achieve that goal. He calls it's like a mechanism, he says. It's like your mind is a mechanism that actually searches for whatever your mind is looking for, what your goal is, basically. If you focus on that idea, like, non-gambler, sick of gambling, you keep on thinking about that goal. When you start thinking about that, all of a sudden, as you keep focusing on that, strategies, techniques, different ways of getting away from gambling will start coming to you. It's amazing. That's kind of like the subconscious mind. We were talking about, the subconscious, and you always bring up the topic of, the mind being a fertile garden. And sometimes I think about the subconscious is the soil, the air, the water, basically. Elements. That will encourage, whatever you focus on, that seed, to start growing, right? So, if you intentionally focus on that goal that you have, I'm done with gambling, I'm sick, I'm not doing it anymore, right? Then, all of a sudden, you start coming up with strategies. Your mind starts looking for ways to get away from it. Okay, so, what are some ways to get away from this stuff? What's happening? What else can I distract myself? Why do I gamble? Well, is there anything else that can take me away from it? All these things start coming into your mind. It's very interesting, in that your mind searches actually for solutions. If you focus, you got to focus. Unfortunately, the mind can be polluted, right, with a bunch of garbage. If you're not careful. You talked about, guarding your mind, right? Guarding the doors of your mind, because there's a lot of trash out there that's going to try to come into your mind and just pollute. Like I said before, right? Looking at other people, comparing yourself to other people, putting yourself down, saying that you're stupid, saying that you're worthless, all that kind of stuff. You allow that kind of stuff, and it just programs your mind. You don't want that kind of stuff. You got to be intentional about your thoughts. And you were talking about self-talk, right, Santos? Always you talk about self-talk. Saying the right kinds of intentional things that move your mind towards what you want to focus on to get your life to the better place, right? You say, I'm a non-gambler. I don't gamble at all. Even early on, you said, I don't do that stuff anymore, right? And then your mind, your physiology starts changing, and it's moving you in that direction. I think Maxwell Maltz says that, it's like, yeah, you're going to fail sometimes, but really failure is the part of reaching your goal. Because as you fail, you learn skills, techniques to pull yourself back out. As long as you don't give up. Yeah. I mean, think about like a ship, tacking through the water. Right. Yeah. You might go back to the casino, right? You might drop like $100, $200 maybe at the casino, in the process of you trying to get out of gambling. Okay. You screwed up. Okay. All right. Then you stop. Okay. I forgive myself. What happened? Why did I go back? What triggered it? What was the trigger? It's like, oh yeah, that's what triggered it. No, I'm going to go ahead and change, the people I hang around with. Because hanging around with those doofuses right over there, they got me back into the casino. I'm going to stop that. You see, and that is something good. It's moving you. Yeah, stuff doesn't happen right away, and mistakes are going to happen. Nothing's going to be perfect. But if you keep at it, those perceived mistakes, those failures, are actually stepping stones to getting you to where you want to go.
That's true. What you just shared a lot. In fact, Maxwell talks about putting pressure on the subconscious. He doesn't specifically say that. I've never really heard him say that, but that's basically what he's talking about, is putting specific pressure on your subconscious. It's really amazing what happens. We beat ourselves up. And I guess maybe for a quick moment, you should look at yourself and, acknowledge the fact of where you're at. Beating yourself up continually is something, obviously, that you don't want to do, because that's going to lead you to suicide. That's going to lead you to more gambling. That's going to lead you to more losses. We need to put pressure. That's the message that I get. Cybernetical has to do with the GPS, right? Psycho has to do with the mind. Cybernetical has to do with this guidance system that we have. You and I, we have a guidance system inside of our mind, in the subconscious, right? It's kind of what we've been talking about. We've been programmed. You're either following that guidance, that cybernetical that's drawing you to the places where you've been continually going to, that maybe you hate, you despise, you want to get away from, but yet that cybernetical, Anthony Robbins, I believe he calls it the reticular activating system, the RAS. It brings to your mind, it attracts into your mind or into your life what you're thinking about. So whatever is going on in your subconscious, that's what's coming about into your life. And sometimes it's weird how we find ourselves doing some things that we truly hate. Isn't that strange? We find ourselves doing things that we hate, we despise, and then we ask, why am I doing this? We start crying, we pound, why am I, again, putting pressure. I say this to myself all the time in my morning rituals. What is the opposite of what I want to do? Okay, if I'm doing something that I know that I don't want to do, what is the opposite? I close my eyes and I visualize that. I do it once, I do it twice. After a couple of days, after a couple of weeks, that mental image comes to my mind very quickly. And the key is to change, right? The key is to replace that distorted image that we have. Coming to videos, using videos. I think it was Sean or somebody had said that they had gone to one of these programs, anonymous programs. You have to put yourself in the environment. You have to literally put yourself in these environments. You have to discipline yourself, because it's not going to happen by itself. You can't just deal with the behavior. Again, we have to get inside the garden. We have to get into the garden, and we have to look at the weeds that are there. How am I going to pull these weeds? How am I going to override these weeds? You talked earlier about analyzing. Max talks about analyzing ourselves, sitting down. It's one of the first things that I do in the morning that I've gotten a habit into. When I wake up in the morning, I'll lay in bed for a little bit, or I'll go directly to my closet, my walk-in, and just lay down on the carpet and close my eyes, literally close my eyes and talk to myself. Santos, you're this. Santos, this is how you're going to handle. I literally just give myself commands. I talk directly. I put pressure on my subconscious. In fact, today I was talking to my wife about some challenges that we have. And I said, within today or tomorrow, we need to come up with 10 solutions. Let's put pressure on the subconscious. The more that you're used to this, the more that you're listening to these kinds of philosophies, the easier that it gets for you, because you begin to believe. Right? You want to create that belief. And I think one of the hardest things for people to do, one of the hardest things for people to get to go forward with, is because they don't believe in themselves because of the image.
Yeah, that's right. I remember Maxwell Maltz talks about, you can believe in yourself. All it takes is something that you accomplished before. Everyone's accomplished something in their life, succeeded at something. And if you can focus on something that you've done before, it could be the simplest thing, it's like you've done it before. And that kind of positive reinforcement can allow you to push yourself, in the right direction. You're right that you need to take a conscious effort in stating what you want. And I encourage all the people, all the viewers here, to focus on themselves and say, I'm worth it. I care about myself. And I know there is a lot of garbage that happened to me that I allowed in my life that I'm ashamed of and I don't like. It's been very hurtful, but you can go ahead and decide to say, you know what? I care enough about myself that I can start making better decisions. And if you can visualize all the things that made you feel bad, from the activities, all those things, and imagine the opposite, being a non-gambler, having money in the bank account, being able to pay your bills. Imagine those things, have those kinds of things, and keep focusing on those ideas. It's going to pull you in the right direction, right? I like to think about, here's an example. For me, I've been eating pretty unhealthy throughout my life. Pizza, junk food, a lot of stuff. And I gained some weight. Over 40 right now. And I think, I gotta, this is not going to be good for my arteries or my heart. Diabetes. My dad, passed away due to diabetic complications. And I just thought about these bad things. And I thought about, what would be good. And I like to visualize that hamburger, that pizza, right? And it's like over a big canyon, and that canyon in between it is diabetes, is regret, is shame, all those kinds of things. I'll have to actually pass through all those kinds of negative things to get to that pizza. And I said, you know what? It's not worth it. And for you folks who are struggling with gambling, I want you to go and think about that casino. And I want you to visualize in your mind all the bad things that are in between you and the casino. Is it worth, going through all that stuff to get to that casino? Losing your money, hating yourself, feeling bad about yourself, disappointing your family, right? Think about, visualize all that kind of stuff. Imagine, you got to imagine this kind of stuff in your mind. And when you see, your hurt wife, when you see your empty wallet, when you see those bills pile up, you imagine that kind of stuff, it's like, shoot, forget it. I'm not going to that casino. Forget it. No way. That's the kind of mentality I like to develop, when I'm trying to avoid something bad. I'm trying to work on, reaching for the good stuff too, but for like the bad stuff, in my case, the diet, you know, I said, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I think that's something helpful. But remember, it goes back to imagining these kinds of things. So really, really focus on developing your imagination, on helping you move towards where you want to go or avoid, the bad stuff like the casinos.
Yeah, the mind is. I remember that phrase. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. I think that's how it goes, something like that.
NAACP. Yeah.
Yeah, and so yeah, the goal, and even just taking one thing, right? One idea that you want to work on. Some of us have lives that we have issues all over the place, and of course, where do I start? That's where most people say, man, I don't know what to do. Where do I start? You got to pick one thing. If you could pick one thing that you want to work on developing and become better and overcome this year, what would that one thing be for you? Just pick one thing. If you walk away from this episode, choose one thing for yourself to start to get your breakthroughs, because that one area is going to open up other areas. And that's the great thing about self-mastery and self-development. You work on one area, yeah, it might even overflow into other areas by default. So you might be working on one area and think, man, I got to work these other areas in my life. And by default, that one area that you get a breakthrough in, that overrides into other areas. It gives you hope. It gives you a greater sense of well-being and belief. You must get that self-belief growing within yourself. If you're going to overcome an addiction, or you want to develop a character, you want to develop more confidence, or you want to develop a skill set, right? I got to learn more things, marketing, relationship building, leadership development. There's a lot of things. We think that once we got it all, we don't have it all down. We're always learning. There's always something more to reach out to. And that keeps you focused from the other things, right? It kind of distracts you also. Somebody said, Santos, what habits did you replace your gambling and your alcohol addiction with? I guess I replaced them with self-development habits, working on myself, reading, writing, and doing all of these. And you can get so creative with yourself when you're by yourself, with you and your mind. It'll amaze you. In fact, sometimes you'll even be so surprised with yourself that you can do certain things that you didn't think you could do in the past. It's truly amazing. In fact, I read from the verb earlier, every good gift and every perfect gift comes from above. It comes from the Father of lights. So we have ability, we have talent, we have hope, we have all of these things. We have mercy to be able to change our lives and go forward and create something different, something new this new year. I believe this is going to be a pivotal year. This year, 2020, is going to be a pivotal year, and it's going to go by very quickly because we're already focusing on 2021. That's the way I think. I'm always thinking ahead, right? Present and thinking ahead. Like I say, the best times to change your life, the best two times to change your life was yesterday and right now. Right here, as you're listening to what we're sharing, we're talking about the famous Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And of course, if you don't know who he is, Dr. Maxwell Maltz, we encourage you to check him out on YouTube. He's got some really good information and some really good just inspiration to help you think about your life and what you can do with yourself. So let me see. I know we're making comments here. There's a few questions. Let me see if there's anything. You have a question for Jim? You have a question for Jim? You have a question for myself? You have an observation? You've got something? Come on, friends.
Nick was talking about.
Go ahead, Jim.
And Nick was talking about mental illness and depression. Like a lot of times, gambling is just a symptom of a bigger, deeper problem. So it's good to, if you're not satisfied with your life, if things are going wrong, it's really helpful to just go out and write things down and reach out for help. Try to organize your thoughts and figure out, what's going on in my life. Why are these things happening to me? For mental illness, there's treatment. There is treatment. Um, when we're talking about limiting self beliefs and negative self beliefs, and self hatred and low self esteem, those kinds of things. It's important to kind of address that, because those are like you talked about pulling things out from the roots. I mean, gambling is basically a symptom of some problems that are deeper. Start digging. The more you start looking at, you're going to find some areas where you would probably want to go and work on. And that's important. Just be honest with yourself. Got to really be honest with yourself and look at yourself. You don't have to make it public to everyone else, but at least find out more about yourself. Look at yourself. Study your own behavior. Why you're feeling the way you're feeling. What happens. Santos, you talked about journaling once again, right? Writing the things that happen in your life, day by day. Things that trigger certain emotions. Then you ask the question, why do I feel like this? Why do I put myself down like this? Why do I go to the casino? And then once you start finding out all these things, now you can kind of start making a plan to help yourself get better.
That's true, right? Again, we've been talking about psycho-cybernetics, the power of changing your mind. And of course, I really enjoy focusing on scripture too. I enjoy reading the Bible. I don't read it as much as I should, but I meditate on scripture at least once every day. Getting into the habit, it's a discipline. My friends, we're talking about building business. We're talking about developing character traits that you want to see in your life, build better relationships. The fact that you can get along with yourself is a part of changing the mental image that you have of yourself. Some people don't like who they are. They don't like who they see in the mirror. Well, the reason why they don't like who they see in the mirror is because they have a certain image in their mind that is there. And that's who they really don't like. It's the subconscious. It's deep inside the mind. We must work on ourselves if we're truly going to get away from these things. It's not going to happen it can happen, right? There's different, to change people's lives, a tragedy can take place. That's something that's beyond your control. That could leave you in a very difficult situation. A death, right? Some kind of a problem that shows up in your life. We must be, instead of waiting for these things to show up, we must take responsibility and say, hey, you know what, man, enough is enough. I don't like this thing. What am I going to do from this point on? What is it that I must do? Whether you pray, you use books, use video therapy, you come to this program, or you have your own personal coach or consultant or counselor, you have to make that effort to move away from that situation that you're in. It's not hopeless, right? I really enjoy listening to Maxwell Maltz. He's really calm, and his message, he's got that old-fashioned language where he talks about child, child, you don't have to stay where you are. Child, you don't have to be thinking the way that you're thinking. You can change, you can change the way you are. I really enjoy listening to him at times. Of course, I've listened to him quite a bit. Now back to where we are. We're gonna be ending the broadcast pretty soon. I see we've got quite a few people on here. I want to say that I truly appreciate each and every one of you guys, men and women. But more importantly, I truly hope that you walk away with something from this broadcast, because you don't want to waste your time. 30 minutes, 40 minutes of your time. We don't have time to be wasting. I saw someone, I think it was Laura. I'm taking notes on this broadcast. I'm taking notes. Take notes, take mental notes, and then begin to apply, because that's what
Laura talks about. Laura asks a question about, what about internet gambling? Yeah, it seems like guess gambling is getting all over the place, And well, I mean, if you're trying to avoid internet gambling, I mean, you can just imagine that these internet gambling sites are just rip off phony, scam schemes. They'll just take your money. Who controls them? I mean, I'm thinking that they'll just take your money. Who's to guard them from just taking all your money? I mean, just like a regular casino. But I mean, the internet. If you can just imagine that the internet is just full of scam sites, you know, taking your money, just programmed to entice you and just take all your money. It's like, hey, that turns me off. That totally turns me off. I mean, see, that's the imagination thing.
Yeah.
Always thinking about. If you can, there's always, like gold, always something of value in the things that we experience in life. And that gold is what you're trying to get out of it. I mean, there's positive things out of everything that you can think of. Always something of value. It's just you need to be intentional about, actively searching for that bit of value. So when I think about internet gambling, it's like I'm against it, right? I'm going to say, you know what? They're a bunch of scammers. I bet that there's some type of scam going on in those internet gaming, gambling sites. And, they're just waiting to rip you off. Who's to control them? You see, I'm putting that seed in my mind. It's like totally, suspicious. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to lose my money. No way. So, I mean, that's something that you can think of when you're trying to combat the thing that's been hurting you. You got to realize what the enemy is, right? The enemy could be negative self-talk. It could be these casinos, whatever it is. You just got to be creative. Okay, so this is the enemy, right? What can I do to fight against this enemy? Your mind gets drawn to it, right? And you start finding reasons that will support your new beliefs. That hopefully that will help.
Yeah, get like Max says, the image, right? What you're sharing is going to contribute to sharing, or it's going to contribute to changing the vision that you have. And that's the goal. Really, the goal is to change the vision that you have of yourself. If you find yourself in trouble, if you find yourself that you're not happy and you've got a lot of issues, and it really just stems from the fact that the image that you're holding on to of yourself is a poor image. And once you begin to shift that image over into a bigger image, Maltz shares a picture of this. Somebody drew like a portrait form, not a portrait, but a little bit of an art, and it shows a picture of a big man, and then like a bird in the air going towards the sun. And there at the bottom, it shows a little bit of a small boat just at peace there in calm waters. And then the other side, it shows a small image. It shows a small image, and then it shows the individual. It shows an image of a person that's in trouble. He's defeated. He's failing. So you've got two images. You got to focus on that bigger image. You got to get, somehow you have to work. And of course, you got to want it. You got to want this. Something inside you has to move you. You have to have a vision inside you. You have to have a desire, right? I said this to myself the other day, that whatever it is that you believe you want that's going to help you change your life is really not what's going to help you change. It's what's behind that image. That is what's going to help you change your life. So you're not so much focused on one picture. You're focused on what it is that's behind that picture. That is going to be the fuel that's going to keep you going during your most darkest times, because you're going to have a hard time moving away from crap if you're in it. And of course, it gets easier. Santos, it's easier. Yes, it gets easier, but you're still going to have your challenging days. You're still going to have your days like we've learned from self-help books. You're always going to have difficult days. It's not always going to be easy. It's not always going to be easy, but the mindset that you have in the middle of your storm is what's going to make the difference for you versus having a defeated mind. So Well, we've had quite a few people on here. Let me see. Let me see. Hi, guys. Gambling is just a lack of emotions. Unfortunately, you fill up your lack of thrilling with gambling adrenaline. I realized that today. New chapter in my life begins. Thank you, Plamba 92, for sharing that. That is true, right? I mean, why do we gamble? We're probably gambling because we want money, fast money. You know, you can trade a $20 bill for a $100 bill. Who wouldn't want that? We all would want that, but we're going about it the wrong way. And unfortunately, that $20 turns into a lot more. And then eventually you get caught up inside this mire, this quicksand, and you begin to drown. So look for other ways. We've been talking about developing a new vision. Develop a new vision. Jim's a business owner. He's been in business for some time. I'm actually a new business owner. I've been working on my business, struggling my way forward. But all of these things have helped us shift and stay focused. Because if you don't have a new vision for yourself, how do you know when you arrive somewhere? If you don't have a destination, how do you know when you get there? Because you're going to get somewhere. You're going to arrive somewhere. And isn't it better to know where you're going versus not knowing where you're going? That's depression. That's disease. That's sickness. That's what really hurts people, is not knowing and not having a good vision for themselves. Well, my friends, I'm almost done here. I'll let Jim share a little bit more, and then we'll get into a call to action. What would you say would be a good call to action?
One thing I would encourage all of Santos's viewers to think about and do is just realize that you have greatness within you. You know, you have to believe that there is good, there is possibility, there's a lot that you can achieve. And instead of comparing ourselves to what the media shows us, to what everyone else around us, you know, is all about, you know, let's start comparing ourselves to, you know, from today. How can I get better? How can I become the best version of myself? The only person that you need to compare yourself to is the person you are today, you know, and we all can get better. You know, we all can get better, and it's possible. Everyone can get better. You know, I mean, maybe you go to the casino like 5 days, you know, hey, you can get better. Maybe you only go to the casino 1 day, you know, getting better, you know, you can get better. You can, you know, achieve a lot. So I encourage you to believe in yourself. Anything is possible, right? You just set your mind to it. And remember, you know, the only person that you need to compare yourself to is yourself today, right? And imagine how you can be better.
Exactly. I couldn't say it any better. So, my friends, fellow soldiers, those of you that have been with us on this episode, I want to thank you once again. I truly want to thank you. You make this program. I'm going to walk away with something. I'm declaring that. I'm going to walk away with something from this program, so it's not wasted time. Would you guys agree with that? You're going to walk away with something? I'm going to ask you to support this mission. If you haven't purchased a copy of my book, I would encourage you to get a copy of it. There you go. It's either this one. We've got a couple other books that were coming. Support the mission. Actually, if you send us a love gift of $25 or more, I'm going to send you an autographed copy of this book. You can give whatever you want. And we also have one-on-one coaching. Cephas, myself, Jim, he's kind of just getting started with us. So if you have any questions, if you have any inquiries about what Jim is doing or how even he might be able to give you some advice. By the way, he charges $40 to $50 an hour. No, I'm just kidding. But he's there. You can always get a hold of him through the website, GuerillaGasBikes.com. In fact, if you want to post something in there, can you post it in the comments? You can post it in there. We're here to support you. If you have a business that you need support with, let's focus on helping each other here going forward into this new year. We all want to build businesses. We all want to generate more income. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We want you to be a part of what we're doing. Pick one thing in your life and begin to work on it from today forward. Pick one thing, one area of your life that you want to defeat, that you want to overcome, and begin getting a plan. Put it on paper. And again, follow the mission. Make sure that you subscribe to this mission, because we're going to help you. We are going to help you. I guarantee you, if you hang around, you're going to be helped. And we look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to have Sean Raj Kumar, which is on the screen. He's going to be sharing a little bit more about his victory. What is it, 37 days, almost 2 months now we're going on. So without gambling. And I knew you could do it. So that's all for me. I want to thank each and every one of you guys again from the top of my heart. All right. And I want to thank Jim for being with us again. And I'm sure we will have Jim again on the broadcast with us, and as he shares his topics. So
thank you, Santos.
You're welcome, Jim. Anything else you want to share?
Just be intentional, be intentional. Remember, you're worth it. We're all worth it. And you can make good change in your life.
All right, my friends from around the world. Well, this is the end of the broadcast 107. We'll see you next Sunday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Bring a friend, share this video, subscribe, and support the mission. Soldier Self Mastery out.